Is my karma really my dharma? Wouldn't it be nice if a psychic could just read a crystal ball and say, here, I see it now. This is your karma, past, present, future. And here's your dharma, your soul's purpose. Good luck. But it rarely works that way. So I chose to go organic in my search. Instead, we get clues, whispers, sticky life lessons, repeating patterns. We get s'mores that fall into the fire. We get heartbreaks, synchronicities, and strange nudges that feel like something more. In this piece, I unpack the layered, mysterious dance between karma and dharma. Not as woo-woo fate or spiritual homework, but as a lived, breathing inquiry, a becoming, a remembering. This one's for the seekers who are tired of waiting for answers and ready to start living the questions. Karma, Dharma, and equanimity. As a somewhat newly awakened seeker of the nuances of human existence, I found that balancing life, work, reality in general, and the whole wild mystery we call the nature of existence with spirituality is no small thing. It can be quite exhausting. This journey, as I'm starting to experience it, feels like a dance, a spiral, a cycle. And sometimes, let's be real, it's a mess. But even in that mess, I've begun to notice something unexpected. A kind of beauty, a rhythm, tucked inside a single breath. A quiet intelligence, moving through the chaos. Still, it hasn't always felt beautiful. Often, it's frustrating. I've had to work hard not to make myself wrong for everything, to loosen the grip of self-judgment. And honestly, some days, I'm just mad. Mad at karma. Mad at dharma. Mad at the whole spiritual setup. It started to feel like my karma was pulling me away from fully being in my dharma. Dang it. How am I supposed to follow my sacred purpose when I'm getting tripped up by all this karmic debris? That in itself stirred even more frustration. So I returned to these three ancient companions on the spiritual path. Karma, Dharma, and equanimity. Each one is a universe. Each one a doorway. Each one is a teacher. And slowly, I began to see that these weren't separate ideas or checkpoints on some spiritual checklist. They were living relationships that showed me how to find balance inside the disbalance of life. Not by fixing it, but by feeling it, by walking with it, by letting the inquiry itself be sacred. It's in that space that an inquiry on how to apply equanimity to this roller coaster cracked something open for me. Could karma actually be part of our dharma? The answer that immediately came to my mind was a resounding yes. Then, if that's true, what happens when we feel like we've run out of karma? I chuckle at the thought, as if karma were a punch card of privilege or accomplishment, or a garbage can to be emptied. The question lingered in a curious space within me, somewhere between laughter and wonder, a paradox of plausibility opening up. A smile spread across my face nonetheless, almost giddy at the pseudo-expectation that a new lesson was surely on its way. Before I consciously stepped onto this path of spiritual self-awareness, I carried a vague yet persistent sense that karma was some kind of cosmic scoreboard, quietly tallying my rights and wrongs. And frankly, I was also hoping it was keeping score for others as well. Sorry, clearly that was part of my dharma. Let it be known that I would discover the reality of this through karma. I was baptized and raised in Christian households, and I still hold a reverence for that part of my upbringing. I now see the parallels between grace, consequence, acceptance, redemption, glory, and the sacred mystery of something greater that transcends all cultures and traditions that keep score. Karma was something I had always known about somehow, as far back as I can remember. It was there, whispering in the background of my awareness, even before I had language for it, or knew how to spell it, propelling my human nature programming of trying not to attract karma onto myself. The spelling has now been retired, yet it still lives in this outdated understanding of my life and it. My journey to clarify the matter led me to Deepak's new AI, deepakchopra.ai, where I inquired, is karma my dharma? Here's what he or it said. The relationship between karma and dharma is a profound aspect of our spiritual journey. Karma, in its essence, is the memory of our actions and patterns that arise from them, influencing our present and future experiences. It is the echo of our past, manifesting in the chaos we make and the paths we tread. Dharma, on the other hand, is about living in alignment with your true self, your higher purpose, or what is often referred to as your true self. It is the path of righteousness, the natural order that guides your life toward fulfillment and harmony. While karma can sometimes present obstacles or challenges, Dharma is about transcending these patterns and living authentically. So, there's a yes in this, transcending these karmic patterns to live authentically. Working to understand the nature of authenticity so I could discover where I wasn't, which most likely held some sort of karma. Those memories that cause reactions and behaviors. According to Deepak's AI definition, it seems that karma is possibly connected to or contributing to our belief systems, and definitely to our autopilot and unconscious modes. Over time, I found myself expanding, sometimes with grace, sometimes not so much, into this world of self-awareness, yoga, meditation, all the vast layered wisdom these ancient teachings hold. What began as a simple practice of movement and breath in yoga class slowly started to unravel into something much bigger. Each time I showed up to practice, something in me stretched. My perception shifted. My questions deepened. What I once saw as a shameful, regretful, even disturbing mess would more than not begin to soften. It would reshape itself, sometimes into clarity, sometimes into an even more beautiful tangled mess. Paradox after paradox, and then another paradox right behind it. On repeat. Forever, it seemed. Eventually, I became more comfortable in the mess, which I often refer to as the goo of metamorphosis. I started to develop a quiet knowing that the universe actually conspires in my favor. I began to notice how life seemed to level up for me when I simply showed up to yoga, to meditation, to journaling, to introspection, to those still honest moments of presence. Normally, I wouldn't see life this way. My autopilot, rooted in old familial and societal programming, used to run the show. However, when I discovered that it was possible to comprehend karma and dharma, not just conceptually, but through my daily practice, something shifted. I began to see myself, my power, my focus, my karmas and dharmas playing out in nearly every moment of sincere introspection, in the silence, in the stillness, in the space where I remembered to remember who I truly am. Each time I thought I had a knowing, it usually unraveled into another question. Each time I arrived at clarity, it became a doorway to something wider. This is what I've come to call the divine flow, intuitive guidance, or alternatively, talking to God. The s'mores of life. Let me share a story with you. Well, more like a metaphor. A sticky, sweet, slightly ridiculous one that somehow made the dance of karma and dharma make sense for me. Sometimes life reveals its truths, not through deep philosophy, but through dessert. Through the messy middle, through the heat, the timing, the smush of it all. It's like making a s'more, scientifically. Stay with me. So you take a marshmallow, toast it carefully over the fire. Ask anyone who's a s'more master and they will tell you there's a science to it. The gelatin structure changes with heat. The sugars begin to caramelize, and you're aiming for that perfect stage. The golden, crispy, and kind of bubbly, a little burnt outside, and just the right gooey inside. The viscosity in its molten state must be just right. Too short over the fire and it's stiff. It won't smush, and the chocolate won't melt. Too long, and it slithers off your stick and plops into the fire pit. Another dimension opens up when we add the pressure to gently smush it between two crackers, and voila, you've got a controlled experiment in texture, temperature, smoosh, and timing. Each s'more becomes a small, edible, yummy study in presence, precision, and presentation. And yet, no matter how many times I burned my hand or dropped a gluey blob of marshmallow on my shoe, watched it melt off the stick and plop into the fire, or let the gooey filling water fall over the cracker's edge in the smush, it always brought joy in the end. Maybe not so much in the mess. Joy in the eating and the quiet curiosity about how I might do better next time. Something in the process was teaching me to focus on what I wanted, how I wanted it, and even why, where, and when I wanted it. It was showing me the power of attention, of presence, teaching me that distraction burns the marshmallow, that impatience drops it in the fire, and that letting go of the moment too soon disintegrates the thing I was trying to create. Was it karma that gave me this gooey, sticky lesson? Was it dharma that made it feel meaningful? Over time, I realized the s'more wasn't just dessert. It was dharma in disguise, karma in motion, a sticky little lesson in intention, timing, focus, and trust. Maybe it's just what happened. I overcooked, undercooked, or cooked a marshmallow perfectly. Or maybe, like so many things, the deeper truths of karma and dharma become visible in hindsight, in those quiet moments during and after a yoga class, on a walk alone, or when I'm lying on the floor, staring at the ceiling, wondering why life feels so poetic and chaotic at once. In those moments of focused meditative presence, often during my daily yoga practice, things begin to land. Lessons I didn't know I was learning. Answers to the questions I hadn't truly formed. Glimmers of truth that show themselves, not with dramatic thunder, but with a quiet warmth. Look here. That's how it often arrives. A whisper, a knowing, a glow. A moment that doesn't shout but lands in the body, in my space, with quiet clarity. It's been a challenge, both as a writer and a human deeply in the experience, to capture what it feels like when a luminous realization arrives, when it humbles me, lifts me, and fills me with that strange mix of pride and awe. These moments don't come on command. They're not always neat and tidy, and sometimes the epiphany is so clear it brings joy to my heart and tears to my eyes. They unfold layer by layer through presence and practice. Learning to trust my intuition has been a deeply felt journey. Not something I read in a book or memorized from a teacher or teaching, but something I had to live through over and over again and again. And somewhere along this path, my karma dharma question began to evolve, to expand, to stir inside me. Could karma be dharma wrapped in synchronicity? Or dharma disguised as karma? and vice versa, each one shape-shifting until I'm ready to see their truth. So I started to feel that the timing of things, these subtle alignments, those perfectly misplaced missteps, those uncanny nudges aren't just coincidences. They feel like something more, something sacred, something intelligent. And maybe those moments are what help transform karma and dharma into something I can build with, not just believe in, but live from. Each one becomes a kind of wisdom, raw, personal, earned, a foundation for the next experience, the next layer of presence, the next blessed breath of awareness. Every insight becomes a brick, every lesson, the mortar. And my intuition? It's become a kind of architect, drawing plans I can't always see, but I've learned to trust and surrender to the path of the unfolding. So when these whispers come, they don't feel like a conclusion anymore. It feels like an invitation to see, to receive, to soften, to inspire you to live the next unfolding from the inside out. The divine flow doesn't always speak in mental thoughts and words. Sometimes it speaks in poetic metaphor, sometimes in marshmallows, and sometimes in the simple act of noticing. What once felt like chaos slowly reveals itself to be choreography, and what felt like randomness begins to shimmer with meaning. This is the dance. That's the inquiry. This is the practice. To be present enough to see it, to receive it, to re-believe in it again and again. The field of change. I notice how I often feel the urge to defend my Christianness. Perhaps to clarify that I haven't turned my back on it, to prove to someone, maybe even to myself, that I haven't abandoned the faith that raised me. Maybe that's fear of getting it wrong, not doing or talking to God right. Perhaps it's fear of being cast out, misunderstood, even mislabeled. Maybe it's the part of me still aching to be liked, not to offend, to not rock the boat. And maybe that's one of my karmas, or dharmas. This people-pleasing part of me that longs to stay safe in belonging. I'm starting to see that belonging isn't always about staying. Sometimes it's about becoming. Not everyone will become with me, and that's okay. Whether we are self-aware or not, the divine flow always guides our path. This is the tender territory where my Christianity and my connection to Christ consciousness meets my curiosity about the divine flow, where devotion opens into discovery, where inherited truths meet lived experience, where the familiar expands gracefully into the unknown. And maybe this is where grace lives. Not in choosing one over the other, but for allowing all of it to be true. But here's the thing. Even that awareness is part of the path. That's self-realization in motion. That's karma revealing itself. That's the field of change where transformation becomes possible, not just for me, but for those I serve and share this life with. In writing this introspection, I see something clear and beautiful. My karma has quite possibly become my dharma. Not because I fixed it, but because I'm willing to contemplate it, to see it, to feel it, to be with it, and use the divine flow to guide it, transcend, transform, and play with it. In doing so, in simply being with my experience and sharing it honestly, I become a mirror for others to see themselves, to recognize something familiar in a new way, to discover possibilities they may have never considered before. A place to just see it as it is. Not something to fix, not something to run from, not something to make more painful than it already is. Something to witness, to soften with, to meet. That's where the healing begins in the honest seeing. And from that space, a ripple moves outward, quiet, real, and deeply human. And when we release our resistance to the lingering weight of our karma, something shifts. What once felt heavy begins to loosen. The story softens. Karma unpacks itself, not into punishment, but into liberated truth. Oh, those moments feel so good. And chasing Dharma? That will almost always bring you face to face with your karma. Not as punishment, but as preparation, as a refinement of your focus, an invitation to evolve your awareness of what you are truly capable of becoming. It's a kind of a superpower, really. Once we may never fully appreciate in the moment, may never fully grasp the ripple effect our individual life experiences have on the whole, on others, on the collective, on humanity. Sometimes what we first perceive as torment is actually transformation in disguise, a painful becoming that's shaping us for something we can't yet name. And somehow, when we make it through, when we integrate the hard stuff, we realize that even the mess had a purpose. Even the crappy parts serve some kind of grace. It's a powerful reminder. We don't know what we don't know. And the challenge you're facing right now might be preparing you for a future you can't even imagine. So for now, I let this inquiry rest, softly and joyfully, knowing that my karma and Dharma are still unfolding and evolving.